All right, my friend. Thank you for doing this.
Oh yeah, I hope it helps.
Yeah.
When the archaeologists opened it up, oh my God, what was going on?
Yeah, it's important because as I said in my message, where imagine if we had audio visual of the contemporaries of Jesus or Muhammad or whatever, that would be amazing to hear those perspectives. So you are an old-time Scientologist, and I think that what you have to say, good and bad, as long as it's truthful, is going to be very valuable.
Right, yeah. I agree.
So if you don't mind, tell me how you got involved in Scientology, the years and all that stuff.
So I was dealing drugs back in Pennsylvania in 1968. We were getting high and all kinds of stuff, and a good friend of mine said, called me up and he said, "Have you heard about Scientology?" I said, "No, what is it?" He says, "I think it's about numbers and you can walk through walls." And right there I go, because prior to that, as a kid I would go exterior and I'd look at my body and I didn't understand it. And I was raised a Catholic, and all you were told was you had a soul. And I'm trying to figure out where the soul was. It's like, where is it located? And when it goes to heaven, what happens to me, right? So when he said you can walk through walls, it clicked. Oh, wait, someone recognizes you're you and you're not a body. And it just like when you were talking earlier, it clicked. You knew that was somewhere there was answers. And so what happened was we went, I think a few days later, we found a list of books like 88008 and Creation of Human Ability, all these books, and I ordered them from St. Hill, East Grinstead.
What year was it?
The 68.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like, it was six. I think he bought St. Hill in 59, so it wasn't too much. But anyway, so I remember them coming, and it was all the books. I ordered them all. I think I went up to Buffalo and started doing the comm course. Buffalo had a little mission run by John and Bergia. He was the second clear in the world, and that's all I remember is second clear, and his wife Mary, and it was a lot of fun. We did money processing, we did the comm course, and I said, okay, how much does it cost to go clear? And it was like, they said $2,500, and I said, all right. So I went home and I was selling drugs to get the $2,500. It made sense, right? So, of course, I got arrested a few times in the meanwhile, and I ended up in jail for 1 year, and that's where I read all the books. Okay. I read them all twice. And when I went exterior in jail, it was like I knew what the heck was going on. Because when I was as a kid, I didn't know what was going on. But after reading and understanding, when I went exterior, it was everything LRA said. You could decide where you wanted to be and you were there. It wasn't even a thought, it was, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. And that freaked me out. I was like, immediately went back to my body. I haven't been exterior like that since then, but the one thing I was, at that moment in time, was clear. Mm. That experience. So I said, oh, I need to get out of jail. Now, I was going to be there for 6 years. And things started happening. I literally postulated myself out of prison in a year and dropped to a misdemeanor. And there were neighbors and people and politicians and my father and all these other people involved, but I just knew I wasn't going to be there long because I needed to get into Scientology.
Wow.
So I got out, I had 3 months parole, and I was sitting there knowing in 3 months I was going to fly to California and get in Scientology. And so when I went out there, I stayed with my sister, and I would commute to the Orange County mission. Orange County mission at that time, 1970, is when I arrived, was run by Ray Kemp. And he was like a real well-known Scientologist from England, Ray and Pam. And, he'd been a mission holder. Well, what he would do is recruit people leaving St. Hill. And he recruited Bent and Mary Corden. They were Class 8s from St. Hill. And so what happened is you want to hear all this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, this is
so what
great.
happened is I did the comm course there, and it was very thorough. I mean, it was like 5 hours TR0, no blink. That was the program, and so
was it called the HQS or was it called what was it called?
It was called HAS,
Okay.
HAS course, Hubbard
Apprentice
Apprentice Scientology,
yeah.
which is the comm course.
Right.
And it was all just the basic TRs, and I think they might even had. I don't think they had the upper TRs. Oh yeah, I think they did. I think it was very
Six
full.
through 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it did. And then you did a little group processing thing at the end of it too. That was a lot of fun. So I finished that, and that was like 13 hours. And I really didn't have a job or money. I just spent all day at the center there. And so they had a bunch of these mini courses, mini org board course, executive org board course, things like that. And I go, well, I'll do the mini org board. It was like $15 or something. And so I did it in about a day and a half. I mean, it was like, and I said, well, what can I do next? They said, they were all looking at me funny, who is this guy, right? So I did the executive one, and that took me a week,
Okay.
maybe 3 days or 4 days. And it was play demo of the awareness characteristics of each department and how it worked. So you did all that. A lot of policies, and I just read them like they were a comic book. I mean, they were easy to read.
Right.
It was like, and meanwhile, all the execs there are looking at me and Bent, the word's getting out. This guy is like the policy guy, right? And so Bent approaches me and says, we'll give you your grades if you come help us open a mission in Riverside. I go, sure, that sounds good, because I want to go clear.
And you didn't, you didn't raise the $2,500 through your drug trades.
Yeah, I never made that. Yeah, I never was able to sell enough drugs to go clear. Oh my! But anyway, so then I went up. We went up to Riverside. We rented a little place. Meanwhile, there's this political war going on. Ray Kemp didn't want Bent to leave and open a mission. So there was all this political stuff going on. I really didn't pay that much attention. Bent really enjoyed the legal aspect of it all. But anyway, they finally granted him a mission in Riverside. But we had a little mission, a little thing in Rubino, which is in Riverside, next to a massage parlor. And guys are wandering to get laid, would wander into the center. It was really hilarious. So anyway, I got the wrenches from LA would come all to any little mission group, and I got registered up on the OEC course. It was $700, and I didn't have it, but I think my dad helped me out with some of it. Yeah, I pulled the money in somehow, and I went up and I did the OEC course in 4 weeks. I just stayed there. Woke up at 8 in the morning, 10 at night. Did all the volume. It was like, to me, it was like candy.
0 through 7. You finished in 4
Yeah,
weeks.
all of them.
Wow.
And it was like I know this stuff. So I came back and put up this big 9-division org board, looked at it. We're this little mission, 3 people. And I goes, I gotta figure this out. There's something to this. And we just started pulling in people little by little, and we found a little house in Riverside on the corner that we rented. And I just said, and that's when the volume, in 71 and 72, I probably finished the OEC in 71, if I remember right. So that's when all the data series and all those were fresh. And I'm reading those on top of the OEC, and I'm going, there's something here. And meanwhile, we're having, Scientology kind of has a name in the news. And it wasn't good. You know, interesting point. We weren't being attacked in the news even back in the 70s, 60s. I mean, it was like there's ships and there's orgies on them, and this is all going on in the news, totally being attacked. Yeah. The FBI raided Washington in the 60s, I think. So, I mean, it was under attack then, but none of that bothered us, but we did body routing, we brought people in, and people would wander in on their own, and we'd have a comm course. Mary was the CS, very good CS, very good tech person.
Mary?
Corden,
Okay.
Ben's wife,
Okay.
she was class 8. And I kept, there was a period there about 6 months where I just knew I was on an internship. And I was telling you earlier, running around getting mad at people and all that. And there was the cognitions I would have was like, no, that's not going to work, You got to communicate, right? So I learned that at an early age, being an exec. But we took a trip up to Davis because we heard about Davis Mission. Davis Mission had a real cool lineup. And they were getting like 10 people started on the comm course a week. And so we're going, So we went up there. I sat there for the whole thing, just listened to what the rundown, came back, put it in, and then made it better. And we started getting 10 people, 15, 20. We started making 5,000 a week, 10,000 a week, 50. We just built up a big reserve. We had $500,000 in reserves, and so we found this building in Riverside. It was an old YMCA building for $135,000. It had 2 gymnasiums, a pool. It was a big, beautiful building. Ben still owns the building. He got it back from the church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's downtown middle Riverside. It's worth $10 million today. But we ended up buying property around the building, too.
Okay, so I'm going to pause you right here. Okay,
Yeah.
Because before I forget this point, what did you do to boom that mission? Because you said that you...
Yeah, I'm going to go over that. And I did do a video called Riverside Mission, but I'm going to tell you right now. So the lineup is this. You have disseminators. So what they do is they go out. We had about 5 of them. They go out and invite people in for a lecture on communication. They may have mentioned Scientology, I'm not sure. But that wasn't, we found that you don't eliminate the word. You don't hide things. So they go out and they all get like 10 appointments. They come back around 4 and they call those appointments and get them to come in. And then there'd be a lecture. And the lecture was all about the ARC triangle communication and how communication could fix your life.
And a staff member delivered it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we had a lecture, and he'd give the same lecture. We honed it down. I would have her literally listen to it. I bugged the lecture, and we just kind of fine-tuned that lecture.
Right.
From there, and there was a certain setup. I'm going to move from our little mission. We did it all, the little house was like so many people there that you could feel the house move. We had to move to a, so when we moved to a big place, we had like 30 or 40 staff, and now it was so big, it was like amazing. But we had a great lecture. I tore down walls to make little reg rooms, because when they did the lecture, the disseminators and the regs would come in and talk to people while the regs were regging them on one thing, the concourse, for $50. In those days, it was like, $50 for the com, you can't do that, but we did it, right? Because it was a value. And then they go right into the concourse. The concourse is a giant room right across, the entrance. And I showed this in that other video, by the way. Basically, from there, they would be, this was Davis's setup. You reg them for life repair.
Okay.
And life repair was $1,500 flat fee. And we get like, out of 20 concourse starts, we get about 7 to 8 a week on the life repair.
Wow.
And this is all fine and dandy. We were doing 20 grand a week, but I did another data eval, because if you just think about the numbers, 20 concourse starts a week, where are all those people going? If your academy isn't filled, what's happening?
Right.
And so the data eval, I called them the Mongiello papers. And it was just a breakdown of, I traced everybody for 6 months. From where they started, they paid for the concourse, what happened. And there were areas like, from the reg room to the concourse, we lost a certain percentage.
Huh.
They never came back.
Yeah.
From the concourse to life repair, we lost them, they never came back. So I figured out that when they were coming from the reg to the concourse, this giant room, lots of people doing weird things, bull baiting and all that, and I figured, they don't want to be part of that. It's too much to confront. So we built the soundproof wall, and so when people came from the reg, am I still in?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so when they came from the reg, they came into a room with just them, and maybe one other, and in there, so their first thing is where they met the supervisor, said, okay, you're coming back. So when they came back, they did OTTR0 for a little bit, then they went in the big room.
Gotcha.
That handles a lot. The other thing is no more life repairs from the concourse, because life repair isn't training, and you can get people to a win in that, but if they don't have any substance of what Scientology is, they're not going to come back. They're nothing. So we took the second story, or the gym, one of the gyms, and literally our crew built another floor. So we had 2 floors. And we made that the Anatomy of the Human Mind course and the HQS course and TR's the hard way. So we kind of divided up. So everybody from the comm course was regged to the HQS, Anatomy of the Human Mind. That was like the perfect rundown.
So it's a comm course, then HQS, Anatomy of the Human Mind course?
Yeah, in fact, in the middle of the HQS, when they had enough, they break them away and do the Anatomy of the Human Mind in the middle of it. Because it was only like, I think it might have only been one night, it might have been a couple nights, but it wasn't long. And then part of the HQS, before they started doing CCHs, is they had to do TRs the hard way.
Okay.
By the end of that, they were
Scientologists.
They were.
Yeah.
And our stats, the way it worked is, we had 20 comm course starts, we made $20,000, and our income was $20,000 a week. It wasn't like the orgs, $1 million, nothing.
Yeah.
It was steady. Well, once that lineup was in, it was $40,000 a week. Because you had just, you're making Scientologists. We had 180 people on staff.
180?
Yeah.
That's St. House
Yeah,
basically.
Oh yeah, we were.
That's crazy.
And so it was really interesting. What happened? Why did that blow up? Well, like I said, I was interested in all of that, making it work. It was fantastic.
Sure.
The whole lineup, working it, fine-tuning it, all in the tech, all in the org series, all in the, it's what I do today when I help people with business. I naturally just do all those things, right? But so what happened? Well, what happened was cases got in the way. And I'm going to tell you what I think about all that. But basically, the minute people started getting into clear and OT is when they started going freaking nuts.
Wow.
And we're talking, Scientology was growing at such a pace. Everybody was getting up there, but it was like, this is where it blew apart. I went to England to do clear and OT1, and I'll tell you about what happened later, how I resolved that, because I literally got worse when I did clear. But of course I'm not going to admit that, but I was like not in good shape.
Okay.
And then on top of that, to try to CS and help myself about, I did XDN, which you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
You literally, all you're doing, okay, number one, you're not supposed to run R3R between clear and OT3. Well, there I was running R3R, evil intentions. And I was just like, after every session, it was just like worse.
Sure.
Worse.
Yeah. What are you validating?
And it was like, oh my God, I had to be OT just to hold it off.
Okay.
And just skip forward, I spent like 30 years of my life keyed in.
Wow.
I mean, when I left, it was like, I literally raised 6 kids as a zombie. Mm-hmm. I mean, I made things go, but they just were, I was like in a dream where you're running through mud. You're trying to, and that's what was going on. And me, the marriage is a total mess. My wife is just as keyed in as I was, and so we were at it. It's just amazing that we made it through, the other side. But after 30 years, because our kids wanted Scientology, we gave them the comm course when they're young. Mm-hmm. We homeschooled them. My wife was very good at that, and as far as I quit school. I could care less if the kids went to any school at all. Mm-hmm. She encouraged them to go to junior college, but she homeschooled them, and they all went from, at the age of 15 or 16, they were in junior college already, and they're all like totally successful now, and they're all OT knots. They're all off. Never went to the church. They're all 5 of our kids are done knots and OT levels and all that stuff. It's really amazing. But me, Charisse would drag me and go, you gotta go in session. Finally, I agreed to go in session with this one guy. And we'll go back to where I think the problem with Scientology, what happened. But I just getting on the cans and just a little two-way comm, I just flipped it. It was like, oh my God. A lot of that compression just lifted. I ended up giving this guy $4,000. I got ripped off totally, but it was worth the $4,000 for the 1 hour of auditing I got. It's amazing. But anyway, so we went searching, and literally Mary Corridon, my ex, said, go ask Mary if she'll audit us. And so I went, I found her, and she's throwing a little baby. And I go, Mary, she goes, who's this? I go, it's Bob. I said, can you audit my family? So she got all the kids, me, moving again, but I still had a lot of bypass charts on her and Ben. So it was, she's really an excellent auditor, but I had to find somebody else, and that's where I found Perry. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
things are
because there's key tech things I want to talk to you about that I think are critical to all of Scientology, and that's right. But you had a question?
Yeah. So everything was going good, and then.
Okay, so I went clear. My marriage was always on the rocks. Ben, was clear that, but he went off and started doing OT3 and stuff like that, and he was changing fast.
And not in a good way, I'm sure.
Yeah, not in a good way. And he literally would start applying heavy ethics. These are all things that early on he resented. That's why he left St. Hill. He goes, they were nuts there. He started doing everything that was done to him. So, I'm going to tell you right now, OT3 is the essence of psychotic insanity. And when you open that box, you got to handle it. And what Mary told me is that at St. Hill, there was like 5 or 8 Class 8 auditors, right? They, at the time, 65 or whatever. But then she just said, waves of people just started showing up. She just said it was like a wave of these blonde-haired, different nationalities were coming over the hill of St. Hill. And she said one night an order came down and said, solo, everybody has to do solo clear enough. Before, they audited clear. They audited OT1, 2, and 3. It was audited. It wasn't solo.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, not many people do. And there's also, you don't solo knots. You do not solo knots. But right now, everybody's solo knots. And in the knots, and I've had this conversation, but Sharice is the one that pointed out, the reeds in the solo knots pack. Do you have that?
Yes.
Okay. Twice he says you don't solo knot because you cannot get the reeds because they're too fast. You cannot solo it. That is the destruction of all of Scientology. That whole knots area, OT3, same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with that only because when I finished my cleanup on OT3 with Mary, and I did knots with Mary, and I was flying. It's like, I'm done. Then I went with Perry. And we're going to have a discussion about what he did. But I'm telling you, I don't know that he knows what he did. But he did it, and I want to make a record of it because I am exterior from the physical universe. I have reached the state of that state. And there's a few things that he does that's amazing. And again, he's like this wizard. He's 93 years old. He looks like the wizard from the Lord of the
Rings.
Yeah, and I expect him one day to come in all white, and everything's white, He is just he's been auditing. He got a Dianetic book when he was 15 years old. He bought it when it came out. I mean, we're talking. He's in Washington, doing all this stuff. So anyway, back to the mission. So the mission just started falling apart. You had things coming down from Flag because they were starting to clamp down on missions and what was going on, and I remember Bet was called back to Flag a few times, and things like that.
It was the actual ship at this point. Flag was a ship.
Right, and he was kind of getting more and more paranoid, and this is probably more 78. So right around 76 when I came back from Clear, Ben had left. I want to tell this story. Ben was putting people in conditions. I'd run around and take them out of the condition. Say, that's bullshit, right? That's kind of what was going on. So him and I were conflicted.
At odds, yeah.
But he didn't know what to do with me because he knew I had a lot of power because I was in common with him.
What was your post?
Exec Esto.
Okay.
I was second in command.
Yep.
It was, he knew that I knew what the hell I was doing. And he didn't know how to, he would always put my wife in a condition because he couldn't put me in a condition. Seriously, that's kind of where it was at.
Some petty stuff.
But I would stand up to him and no one else would. He was the king. To me it was like, no, I know what the hell I'm doing type of thing. So anyway, him and Mary, there was a whole thing on an affair. She was having an affair. And I was trying, I had gone through all the divisions and built them up, and the tech division was stuck. And I said, I need to go in there and fix it. Because we were regging so much. We had a 10,000 hour backlog. And the head of tech, the tech sec was the one having an affair with Mary. And so it was just not good. Yeah. So I went in and I uncovered it, and I just said, "Bad luck." Well, they knew. She knew, he knew. I wasn't supposed to expose it.
Okay.
So I'm the bad guy for, I lifted it. But I really didn't, so the tech sec blew, and then I started building the tech division and building auditors, and, because that's what I do. If I touch it, it grows, an organization. So he, the relationship was straining more and more and more because of things like that. Well, he left for New Zealand for 3 months and just left me in charge. But it was right after we had a credit union. Davis had a credit union, said, we'll open a credit union. So we opened a credit union, there's $1 million in there. Or no, if you get $100,000 in there, the feds give you another $1 million or something like that. So we're loaning out money, and our stats are like going crazy.
Got your own bank?
Yeah, right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so, but it was really out of exchange. And so when it came down, we had to close the credit union from Flag. I didn't have a problem with it because I could see you give somebody money for free to buy auditing, they're not working for it. It was just not right. And I could see it.
Yeah, the flow's not right.
So I said, yeah, close it down. What's the big freaking deal? Ben was like, no, we can't close it down. Because he was all money. He was like, we need the money, right? And so that just pissed him off when I said, close it down. And so he's third party. I find out later, he's third party me with, what's Hubbard's daughter's name?
Diana, Suzanne.
Diana is like the head of Div 6 at the time, and she's firing all these orders, kill everybody, and he says to me, he goes, well, I don't want Diana to, I'm trying to protect you from Diana. I said, well, from what? Well, they want the credit union closed. I said, well, close it down. There's nothing to do it, right? So we ended up closing it down, and our stats just stagnate. They just really just start crawling on the bottom. And I knew the reason why, because you inject, like anything, you inject fake money. Yeah. I mean, take any society, you have false stats, you have, that's what welfare states do. They think, oh, just give everybody money, a living wage, and it doesn't work that way. It destroys the human spirit. So they left for 3 months because he didn't want to deal with it. He wanted to get away with his wife and all that, which is fine. So I'm looking at the grade chart one day. Everybody's miserable. And it says production service fact, grade 4. If you handle service facts, production is awareness. So I got to looking and I go, I had a team of guys figure out, because all our staff were there for a long time, 5 years, 6 years. I said, I want you to add up all their stats. And we had an award ceremony. And I'm telling you, everybody was feeling like shit before this. At the end of it, once we acknowledged everybody and said, we gave them trophies or awards or certificates or whatever, boom. The place just lifted up, stats started going. I could whisper and the org would do what I wanted. It was like I was God. It was the most incredible thing. Then I figured out you take the execs and you give them each an Esto. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want you to pick the most trained. I want you to pick the person that you're in calm with the best, that you have a good time with. I don't care if he's the janitor. Boom. They picked him, and I said, do the same all the way down. And literally, I was 180 people, 1,000 people. It didn't matter. I totally went into this realm of understanding organization beyond OT. That was it. Communication. There is no organization without comm lines. And if you don't have comm lines, you don't have an organization. And I figured out that whole thing. Bam. Meanwhile, Ben's getting crazier and crazier, and finally he takes me out to dinner. He goes, if I leave the church, will you come with me or will you go with the orcs? Mm-hmm. I said, I'll go with the orcs. And that did it. He declared me suppressive. I was suppressive with full pay. Meanwhile, they have this mission trying to, they're trying to declare ban and all this. So they get a hold of me, or my ex got a hold of Woodruff. In Orange County was now Orc, and he was Woodruff. Yeah. And so they interviewed me, and then they started. That just opened the gate. They wanted to know his overs, and I said, yeah, they wouldn't comprehend, but they were looking for like, is he stealing money or whatever? But it was a mission. You can't steal your own business. So whatever was about to happen, it was effed up. The only true correction would be to have audited Ben. Mm. But he was so keyed in. OT3 is a third dynamic engram. And it was, I didn't know OT3, I was OT1, clear, keyed in, evil ins. I just had to get out. Because I just said, until I figure out what, I knew the answers were in Scientology, but until I figure that out, I don't want to be a part of it. Because I don't understand anything from what I used to understand.
Right.
And
you would attribute that to basically running R3R as a clear.
Oh, yeah.
And
well, I did for the longest time. And I even went to, so I'm keyed in, we're living life, I'm keyed in as hell. And kids are growing up. We were always in, like, never had money, it's just like this whole poverty thing. And I started a business. Actually, in the early 80s, we went back to Erie, Pennsylvania, where I grew up.
Okay.
And my ex, we got to get back into Scientology.
What's your ex's name?
Joan.
Joan?
Yeah, Joan. She was #1 concourse supervisor at Riverside Mission. Her and Jim Hamry were like, they would get like 4 life repairs a week out of the concourse. They'd pre-reg them, and then they hand them over. So they were like thousands of people that got into life repair. Really a lot of confront. But anyway, so let's see, where do I take you from here? Yeah, and so she's always wanted me to get back, and there was a little mission in Riverside. I went there, and then I ended up, she got me to go to Buffalo, Org, and be the ED of Buffalo, Org.
What year was this?
This is like 82 or 83.
Okay, so 78 you left, 82 you're back.
Yeah, 83.
But
and
did you get undeclared, or what happened?
Oh, well, Ben couldn't declare me. He was a mission holder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it didn't mean anything.
Gotcha.
What he did meant nothing.
Okay.
But, so, went there, and again, I'm in this fog. I'm totally keyed in, but I'm putting all the things in, but it's like my heart's not in it. I'm just doing it mechanically. And we end up in New York for some award ceremony. I'm looking around, and somebody accused me of stealing some money, and I just said, I looked at my ex. I just walked out. I said, this is insanity. I don't want any part of it. And I got on a plane. I flew to Erie. She flew to California. She's from California, and stayed with her mom and that for a while. And then that's where I opened a pizza shop, and I did stuff different, different stuff like that. But yeah, so in there, she's like, you gotta handle your case. She was all, if I get my case handled, she'll be all right, which is half true. I would be all right. She needs to handle her case, right? But that's okay. So I went to Santa Barbara with, they had was broke away, the CS, famous CS, top guy.
David Mayo.
Yeah, David Mayo. So I did OT3 there because I said that's what I really
At the
did.
AAC, the Advanced Ability Center.
Yeah, up in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So it didn't help. It just made matters worse. It was like, what the freak? So I do listen to tapes, I do, live life, and I just kind of suffered through, and finally I just started breaking through a little, but it wasn't until I actually got in that session I told you about early, and then Mary, I just started cleaning up OT3, and this life became bearable. But then I go in with Perry.
This is when?
And
when did that start with Perry?
Now I'm going to say maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because I haven't had any sessions for about a year, and we did it for a year. So let's say 3 years ago. So he sits down and he says, what hat would you say you're wearing right now? And I looked around and I said, barely existing. So he got me to describe what freaking hat I was wearing. Right. It was amazing.
The treason formula, basically, right?
And then he said, what condition are you in? Therese pointed out the downfall of Scientology was right at that point where knots, they did solo knots.
Which was...
And there's so many, like 80, in the 80s, like
I think it was a little earlier.
79. Yeah, I remember knots came out kind of...
Ned was 78, and I think...
Yeah, so right in that area.
Right in there, yeah.
But in the policy, or in the bulletins, there's 2 places that you can't solo knot. So why are people doing it? And I brought it up to Chris Black and all these Scientologists that know everything,
Facebook
Trey
gurus.
and all that. You know, it's like they, you know, Shreef did it for a while and had fun with it, and I did it for a while. I go, where's the reference? You know, it's like, well, you know, the problem is not many people know that even solo auditing wasn't solo auditing until there was just too many pieces. That was a fix. But I'm not an auditor, so what the hell am I auditing? I mean, I did the solo course and all that. That, I think, it's really interesting. This is my point of view of LRH.
Yeah.
He wasn't here to be nice to anybody. He was here to get the information recorded and put down. And he seriously that was what he wanted to do and did it. And literally wrote up, his whole hat write-up is there. And if you read the power change formula, that's all it is.
Right.
He literally handed over his hat to us.
Right.
And we're out here peeling, having cognitions on the admin scale. Meanwhile, he wrote all of it in 15 years and gave thousands of lectures. There's no mortal man on earth that could do that.
I was telling my ex the other day, I was like, after many years of work, I could have probably come up with the tone scale and maybe the chart of human eval and been like, this is a huge contribution. And that would have been it for me. I mean, that's one iota of what he put together. It's mind-boggling how much he
you can take a policy and literally write a book. You ever hear of Dave Ramsey? You know, he has that whole, the Dave Ramsey, he's a, it's really cool. He's a Christian, and he has the pay off your, everything all right?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. His whole thing is pay off your debt.
Okay.
And he has a radio station. He's a multimillionaire, but his whole story was so many years ago when he was young in his 20s, he had all this real estate. He followed all the real estate gurus. He had $5 million, and then the market went out, and now he owed millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So he took the Bible and he studied it and worked it, and then he figured out this whole system. And Dave Ramsey, I mean, it's an amazing success story, and he's got so many people. They have debt-free screams when you listen to the radio. They call in and go, "We're debt-free." Okay. Anyway, so I listen to it all, and I'm listening. Okay, so do this. You know, this is the condition formulas. He takes people that are in danger in their finances, applies that. He has a danger formula. They change your working, you know.
Your operating base.
Yeah, your operating base, all that, normal, everything is the thing. You can literally, yesterday I was listening to a thing, he's talking about biology. He goes, oh, somebody should take this to become famous. He's just literally on one of his lectures in 10 minutes, he's talking about something to do with bacteria. Mm. And that he showed how if you blow smoke at bacteria from a cigarette and it dies, the second generation will remember it, and the third generation you can blow steam at it and it'll get sick and die thinking it's cigarette smoke.
So we got bacteria.
Yeah, and so he's going over it. Incredible tape.
Did you ever see him personally?
I've never met him.
Never met him.
And I'm almost thankful because the people that worked with the stories they tell are like, he was ruthless. And that's why I say, I don't think he was here to be nice to anybody. He had a mission, he did it, and no matter how many complaints you have about it, I mean, I was happy that because I talk to him when I read the material. He's talking to me, I'm listening.
Yeah, pretty much directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's LRH. when people say he yelled at you and threw it off the shift, I don't know what to say. I'm just glad I wasn't there. You know, I can see why people are like hate Scientology and all kinds of things, but man, the information is so unbelievable.
Here's how I justify that, because of course you have to, you know, you have to justify it. You have to rationalize it.
Rationalize, yeah.
So it's like, and somebody else confirmed this the other day. I was like, when you are dealing with something so critical, and people keep screwing it up, and screwing it up, you got to do something at some point to get through. You know what I mean? The issue is that it seems like that one point was carried on in the execs, and all the rest was kind of forgotten.
They dramatized what they assumed his viewpoint was of a situation, and it wasn't.
Right. And it could have been that one particular instant, that one, I think...
No, it's like...
Trey said that it was like about 6 weeks that they were doing overboarding. Only about 6 weeks. It was a very small amount of time.
They were doing what?
Overboarding.
Oh, overboarding, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it got dramatized forever.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, what's happening? The reactive mind is trying to handle the reactive mind.
Right.
And it's just...
Yeah, right. No, you're right.
It gets there. Now, Quentin Hubbard, 1978.
Quentin,
commit suicide.
Right.
Ostensibly. I wasn't there. I was a small child. And I wasn't even a Scientologist.
Right.
So what was that like? How did you find out?
This is how we found out. Ben read it in the newspaper. It was in the newspaper.
It's a regular newspaper.
Because we're in Riverside. It happened in Nevada, somewhere in Las Vegas. His body. So he reads it. He tells me and he tells the different staff and that. And the one guy would always come down from LA or came down, and Ben said, well, what about Quentin? He goes, what about him? He goes, well, then he died. And like, they didn't tell, nothing was reported to any of the orgs.
Wow.
And no staff member reading newspaper, you know, it's they're totally, so it was like total hush hush, but eventually Mary Sue did write a letter about it.
Oh, really?
And I don't know I can't remember, but she issued something about it. Like, just. But here's some other inside scoop. Mary was on the ship, and every time, apparently he was gay.
I heard that.
Quentin, and no one wanted to audit Quentin. His folder would be pushed around because the old man was right on it, and they didn't want to be wiped out by RA. So his folders would no one would confront him. Anyone that audited them didn't audit them. Mm. They were like, I quit, you know what I mean? But so a lot of, I've talked to people that literally this one woman, Susan in New York, was right there. I mean, she was the one that typed all the OT3 materials or something. I don't know. There's lots of stuff. She was right next to him all the time. Said he's really a good guy, and that I've heard other people, but I don't believe them because everybody has issues. They have things. I don't know what all I know is when I read his policies about ARC and about life and all that, I just don't see it,
Yeah, that is one thing which is difficult for me personally to reconcile, because I'm like, he's, very top of the food chain as a man, very perceptive. And for 78, that's kind of, to me, when a lot of things went south. Because it was Quentin, then the Guardian's office.
When I left.
Then 82 was the Mission Holders Conference, where apparently just devastation to the network. And apparently we haven't recovered since then.
That was a total destroy it.
Yeah. And then to allow Miscaviage to take power. Pat and any broker are gone, and Mayo's gone.
Yeah, they got rid of anybody, everything.
Knowing who LRH was and how capable he was, how does that happen? And
I think he left a lot earlier than they say he left. Like, when did they say he died? 84?
86.
Yeah. No, I think he was dead, like in 1980. I think. What do I know? I really, there's a lot more people a lot closer. But somewhere number one, we're talking Russia, American government, Russian government. How many countries want information on how to control people, their minds?
Literally everybody.
And we're talking power, we're talking teams of people that are targeted to do that. Something happened there. And I don't know, I think he had, if you had an imposter, the first thing you do is get rid of anybody that ever knew the real one. Mm-hmm. So I think the real one was either murdered or captured. Because there is no other explanation. This guy was so beyond. If you listen to the Esto tapes and that, he had it all wired. He had it all down. He was wrapping it up right there in 72, 73. The sci-fi books, when did those come out?
Which was Mission Earth?
Yeah, and all those.
I don't remember. I think Mission Earth was early 80s.
Was it? Yeah.
I believe so.
See, I
The Purif is amazing. That came out in, I think, 80, 81-ish. So there was stuff after.
Right.
People saying that there was a possible...
But he could have written those early on and they just issued them.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? He could have written those. I mean, he was done with the material pretty much in 75. Mayo's dead. Those are the people that would have had some better answers.
And they're disappearing.
Yeah, right.
You know, they're disappearing. That's a shame. I mean, I don't see, personally, and maybe since you're more involved in the California Scientology scene than I am, I don't know too many people out here. I don't see many clears and OTs or auditors being created.
Yeah, no, there are none. Yeah. I really want to do that. And I know I can do it really easily, but I don't want to, I imagine I could get people to have money together and try to formulate it, but I'm not like that. I have to do it. I don't want any boss above me.
Yeah.
Ever since I had Ben, he was really incredible at the beginning, but if somebody keys in and they're your boss, it's not good.
How is your relationship with him and Mary now?
Oh, Mary I can talk to anytime. She's like incredible. Ben is, I could call him and talk to him. It's not a big deal, but he's very keyed in. He hates Scientology. He hates L. Ron Hubbard. He wrote a book, the Messiah.
Bareface Messiah?
Madman or Messiah.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah. And, I never read it. I'm not interested. But he's really into it. He burned all the PC folders at the mission once he got it back. And, he's real anti-Scientology. And they're all into the Leah Rimini thing, it's really great. And, so I wouldn't have any, if I see him at one of these meetings, like, what's her name, Janice Gillum, mm-hmm. She has parties, get together, like they're doing one for Bill Franks coming up. He was ED at one time. Yeah, international and at LA org. These guys were really cool, But once they got wiped out by the church, they ended up stuck in that incident. And it just always amazed me. It's OT3.
What do you What do you think, if you had the ability right now and you had resources, what would you do to handle Scientology?
I'd build the biggest Scientology thing ever, and all the rest would dissolve. And I'd show people how to do it. And it'd just be simply my lineup. But my Decem line would be different. I would get people into lectures a different way than having people go out and invite people. But I just do it the comm course is the exact same lineup. And it would take about 2 years. It'd be so big. Literally the church would vanish.
What about handling all the disaffected old OTs? What would you think would have to
What I
happen
built is an incredible AO.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible AO that handled, and I would just take them and fix them at no charge. Because they're valuable beings with all this incredible thing. I mean, look at me. For 30 years I sat dormant, like Obi-Wan, you know. But it's really incredible. There's so many great executives that are there. And there's so many people that want it. I mean, all my kids are incredible Scientologists. Never been into any org at all. But if there was a place to go, they'd go.
They'd never been to an org?
Never been to an org. And they're all OT NOTs.
And they were audited by Mary?
Audited by Mary, yes. And they do their own courses, their own checklists at their place or their home, yeah. And they're all successful. I mean, sane people.
So you don't need an org to go up the bridge?
Nope, you don't. But to answer your question, if I had all the resources, that's what I'm gathering, that's what I'm doing. And that's all that needs to happen, but it's really interesting. People are gathering, it's gathering momentum, because we have the muster and those different things, and there's new people coming in every once in a while. I go, well, I want to learn about it, I want to know about it. So that's there. And all the Leah
Rimini, something like that.
Whatever. All she's for is, that's the church's problem. It's not our problem. You know,
yeah.
You know, first of all, if you talk to I have many friends that are Scientologists. They're whatever religion they are. And they know me and they know I'm a Scientologist. And they, you know, it's not, whatever the news makes it or whatever it is what the news makes it.
Right.
Remember I said in the early days, Scientology was being attacked like crazy, and we were growing this incredible mission. And again,
despite all the headlines,
I could do it, yeah. And it was the same. And guess what? There was only 3 channels on TV, and Life magazine. They're all owned by SPs. So
yeah,
we were growing. Did I get out of?
There you go.
I keep rolling around. So anyway, so yeah, none of that is a concern. What must happen is we need a lineup that gets people from clear through OT3 NOTs. We need a lineup, and it's not solo.
What do you think it is? There needs to be an auditor.
I think solo is the big thing. Now, a lot of people that do it, well, not a lot, the people that I know that do it successfully are Class 8 auditors. You know, so they're really well trained.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, you know, it's such fire material.
Right.
It's just so explosive, and you're giving it to people that have never taken a live PC.
Right.
So how could you possibly even read the meter unless you? It's like
No, I remember, I can recall it all myself doing clearing. It was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It just jammed in, it became a big engram, the whole thing, on top of an engram. It's a journey. To think you're going to start and end in a couple of years, I think is unreal. I think it involves everything. Your divorce, your children, your life, Scientology is not, oh, I'm going to go in session, oh, I'm OT3 now, oh, everything's wonderful, because there's all the dynamics involved, and every engram, everything that you can imagine lights up like a freaking rocket the minute you say, I'm not a body. Well, what the hell? Welcome to, it's like the Matrix, they're finally realizing they're in this, the Matrix is all unreal, and they're in this little machine, but what's so fascinating, I forget how it goes, but 88008 means from infinite mass to 880, something like infinite mass to infinite theta, to theta to infinity, or something like that.
Yeah, the infinity of mass.
Yeah.
Not the infinity of theta.
Yeah, right.
That's a kind of
That's our journey. That's what we're trying to do. And all through this knots, as I was handling, letting go, communicating, recognizing, I saw the reality of what that is. So anyway, what is really incredible is what I thought Scientology was in the beginning. It is where I am now. But that road to there was hell on wheels. And everything that happened in my life, I caused it. The hell on wheels is what I was creating, causing, happening. And so that mire that you have to go through is what you got to go through. So these people that go up the grade chart, it's all fun and games at the minute they say OT3, science fiction, is they don't want to open that door. Because it is a Pandora's box. It really is.
Right, and then...
And it'll kick your ass,
Are you looking forward to OT8?
I don't even, I'll do it, but I have no clue what it is or anything like it. And if it is the real one, I have no clue what it is. I don't know that I'm looking for it. I'll do it. But what I know now and what I've been through or know is it always goes back to the basics. And that is start, change, and stop, the 8 dynamics, and the first 10 axioms. And anything audited toward or around that gets you there is auditing. There in the FEBC tape number 2, he talks about, he goes, you can even do your own, come up with your own auditing, it just better work, or you'll get in trouble. I've heard that on a few tapes. Literally, the technology's there, and if you run it, if you go toward theta, you're going to be all right. If it builds up charge, it's not a process.
Right.
But there's so much tech. But I just don't think it was put together by anyone, the top end. I'm talking about from clear, just through OT3. I don't think that's been done right. I don't know. And I think literally those okay. In the early days, LRH was having trouble getting people to duplicate because bottom line is they weren't there. They weren't in charge. So he comes up with the CCHs TRs, real low grading, just to get somebody knowing they're in control of their body. Very low level, but that's where Earth is. I mean, that's where Earthlings are. So if, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
So, not to just get them to the point to confront knots, so they're themselves, not anyone else. They're really truly them. Now audit them. I was considering doing the grades over. Yeah, I'm going to be getting back in pretty soon, and but it'll be a lot of fun. But I'll tell you, I definitely, absolutely, would crossed over the point of kind of like, I don't want to tell people about Scientology because I'm not sure myself. Not that I'm sure it doesn't work, but I don't want to get them to where I was. I want to get them to where I am now.
Right.
Winning.
I understand.
So even if they're shit dug in, I'll know they can make it.
I completely understand that because I'm in the same kind of boat.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something we haven't actually talked about, which is Miscaviage and his rise.
Right.
And that whole thing. Because 78 was where we kind of left off. As far as organizationally, you talked about personally. Organizationally, 78, you left.
Right.
There was issues.
So I left and I was out and I went back and I think there was some different people. I don't know if Miscaviage was taken over quite yet by 84 or 83.
Yeah. By 82, he was.
He was in power. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I really didn't. What I remember is like Jens Vogt was in New York. Jeannie Franks, Bill Frank's ex-wife, and somebody else. I remember Captain Bill in the early 80s was, and then he left. But when I finally left, I was pissed. Because I could sit, because I was in New York, I saw it all, and I go, this is disgusting. This isn't Scientology at all. So I was gone, and I didn't pay any attention to it. Other than my ex, I was going, my wife at the time, I was going, we got to get incense, we got to, she kept trying to get back in the church, and finally the church, I think, did, they wouldn't let us in. They didn't declare us, but we just couldn't get back in for auditing. And my thing was, it wasn't Scientology. I don't want to go into what something is, right? But she was totally, it was driving me so crazy. So she started protesting, taking all the kids, Sharice and when they were all little. I'd say around 89, because she kept trying to get into church. They wouldn't let us in. She demanded a comment. They gave us a comment, and in it said, we're declaring you because your stats are up. And it was actually written in there.
What?
Yeah, no, and I look at it, I look at her and I go, these fuckers are crazy. It was so inverted, so distorted, so much, nothing to do with Scientology. And she kept going to the IJCs and finally she read the PR series and said, well, sometimes you have to protest. And so she got outside and it'd be like, apply LRH and all positive, but it was all like, get back on source.
Right.
She'd walk around the headquarters in Hollywood out front. And I went a few times and it was a lot of fun because they'd come up and try to talk you out of it. And they go, you're just pulling this in. I said, well, you're pulling it in, aren't you? And they go, wait a minute, aren't you pulling us in? Like, what the hell, And they freaked out. And then finally I got tired of it. I go, look, I'm going to start telling you, are you OT3? I'm going to start telling you OT3, but and they'd run. So anyway, but Joan has lots of stories on I don't know, she'd be one. Sharice might talk about it, but she'd go up and she'd protest and They arrest her, and it was amazing.
Who'd arrest her? The actual cops?
No, they called the police, and the police would she'd friend all of them, and they'd go, well, you can stand here, and this is what you can do, and
but she was never actually arrested, like...
Yeah.
Oh, she was?
And that she went to court in Hemet, because she went to Golden Era, down there, and protested. Yeah. And they arrested her because there was no sidewalk.
Gotcha.
And so it was more of a dangerous situation. But she won in that courtroom and other courts. It's really interesting. They have these high-powered attorneys, and she's really not afraid.
What's her last name?
Well, my last name, Mongiello.
She still has that last name?
Yeah, she still has it. Gorman, but we've been married since '74, so and she still has it. I don't know how friendly she would be to an interview.
Well, she could see yours when it comes out. She can make her mind.
Charisse may want to do it.
Yeah.
She could definitely tell you more about the protest. Charisse is right in there with her. She's a real fighter. So, but as far as David, I didn't pay zero attention. My wife would do all the blogging or whatever was going on at the time. She was so into it. But the church, I think she really started something because the free zone wasn't happening yet. This is like 89, 90, 91, she protests. And I just think, because a lot of people would come by and go, really cool, secretly to her, thanks for doing it. So it was like, I think she started the whole thing, because they sent investigators around, and she'd get come into our house, and she'd just get calm with them, and they wouldn't come by anymore, once she explained what was going on, they were like, what? Why am I doing this, So, and the church sometimes would send people to talk to us, and we turned them. The IJCs would blow after they talked to her, because, it was insane what they were doing. And what's so funny is the one guy that we would keep petitioning, it was the head of IJC, is that one guy who blew and left and made a big Marty Rathbun.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, he opens up the whole thing, and everybody's listening to him. And my video on Riverside Mission, somebody posted it on his thing, and 3,000 people watched it. Like, it was like an instant, I became a success, right?
Right.
Because they're all, remember the old days, right?
Yeah.
And Marty would get in comments. I said, Marty, you need to, you screwed my whole family over. You need to apologize, And Charisse started commenting with him, and he's a squirrel. I mean, he wasn't a Scientologist. He was battering Scientology, and she would just point that out. And Charisse has handled so many things. When she started to muster, still Scientology was like, She wanted positive. Because what was on the internet was all
negative.
So she just wanted, hey, the Scientology's all right. And so she had a big effect on the field. She went around and she'd have parties, and she did a lot like that. So she really just kept pointing out, because all these people, important people in the field, liked Marty. And she would just say, look, the guy's not a freaking Scientology. He hates Scientology. What are you afraid of? They was like they were afraid to say anything bad about him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was never fond of him nor Mike Rinder, because I saw how what a total asshole Rinder was to people. Like, brutalized them, and like.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're a hero. I'm like...
Yeah, he's a hero making money off of...
You need to apply some conditions, dude, because you ain't on my team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And Rathbun was like...
Yeah, no, he's a total... And she would point this out, and it was... finally, he just kind of disappeared, but she just went on the full... would take nothing, anyone that protected him or anything. He said, what the hell are you doing? You're doing what you're complaining the church was doing.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking the truth, but the same with Mike Rinder. Yeah, these guys have so many overts on people, and what do they complain about? Scientology, well, they were in charge.
Right.
They were in charge.
Right.
While all this shit was going on, why are they heroes?
Right.
They were the ones freaking executing it.
Exactly my point.
I
don't understand it, and I don't get involved in it. Like, I don't comment on those things. I'm like,
no,
I'm doing something else, But still, it's kind of like.
No, it's a fact. You're absolutely right. Well, I didn't do that because I'd be doing what I'm doing with you right now, being pissed off about it. So I never got into it because I knew someday it would work itself out, because the bottom line is the material's there.
Right.
And it's there. And the truth can try to alter it all over, but no, there's too much of the real stuff out there. So it's going to survive. And these people that are assholes aren't, And the Theta will rise up, and it is. It's come a long way. Because the free zone used to be hate Scientology. That it was all.
Oh, I thought it was basically like.
Well, you had Captain Bill moving away. You had some positive, but really a lot of it was nana, this and that. And a lot of it is even when I left, I had a choice to leave 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier. It's always on you. Why didn't you leave? Why did you stay and be a part of something that you didn't agree with? So it really is a lesson. The whole thing is part of the internship of Scientology. Why did we stay all that time and punish ourselves? It's all part of the internship. And the sooner you get through it, because the only thing that's going to handle all this is getting yourself in session. So number one is get yourself in session. Get your head sorted out. Get it all clear. Then you're going to see this evolution as people make it up through the real bridge and make it the other end. You're going to see it happening. It just, the minute LRH moved off, it was doomed, because he was holding all the pieces together. But everybody at least thought, well, he'll fix it. And he would have eventually. But it was like he literally needed to move off the line and let it crash and build up on his own, because he couldn't have ever handed it over to anybody, I don't think.
It's almost like this is deliberate.
What's that?
So it's almost like this is deliberate.
I don't think he did anything undeliberate. I don't think there's anything. I think he said, okay, guys. And everybody, he pounded in the head to do this and that. I think David Mayo, I think all these people are coming back. I know a few have definitely come back, and they're stronger than they are before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a test. Like, here's the material. I wrote it.
Yeah.
Let's see what you guys do.
Yeah. Right.
Can you figure it out?
In the early tapes, I remember him saying, when I come back, it won't be as LRH, and it won't be anything related to Scientology.
Yeah, that's from the student briefing of the OT8, actually. That's a very controversial issue. Some people say it's fake. To me, it speaks exactly like LRH. To me, it's valid to me. And it's an interesting thing, because sometimes Trump gets the same kind of hysterical reaction as LRH would. I'm like, man, LRH, Trump, red hair, belligerent, doesn't care, and he's just going to...
Trump is OT, without a doubt. And I don't mean through science.
As a
this
being.
guy, yeah, he's this OT being. He absolutely does not care anything. I love his tweets. And I can't believe people, Glenn back, because I used to listen to Glenn a lot of time, and then he just started bashing, then he's come, I knew he'd make it through the other side, but, so I had to quit listening to him, but I listen to him now, and I like his interviews, a lot of good interviews. Well, he gets 4 hours of sleep a night. He definitely resembles our age.
Big time. And his attitude, too. Like, just like... So, I've said this a couple of times, and nobody's really kind of validated it, because, it's kind of out there. But there's a lot of similarities, man. There's a lot of similarities.
That makes sense.
Makes sense to me. The whole briefing makes sense, but some... Trey doesn't believe it, for example. Trey's like, it's a forgery. It was proven as a forgery. I'm like, God, it's right in Elrich's tone. It's what he would have written. It explains so much.
Trey's a Democrat.
Yeah,
no, just kidding.
You leftist.
We definitely edit this video.
Yeah.
I can't believe how many Scientologists are freaking liberal as hell. Man.
And like emphatically so. It's not even like they're like, no, they're very vehemently like.
Do you know Ian Wexler? He was a cook for LRH, right?
Okay.
He was a chef for LRH.
Okay.
He's very conservative. He took conservative when he word cleared the Constitution.
Oh.
He goes, the minute I did that, it was like, all of a sudden I'm not liberal anymore.
Yeah.
My friend, we were driving 3 or 4 years ago before Trump was elected. She goes, I'm voting for Hillary. I vetted her, and she's the one. And Ian and Charisse and I look at each other.
Wow, my God. It's a classic SP. It's like, my gosh. Like, the 12 characteristics. Like, just check off.
You can double them. You can, like, do SP and all dynamic, all areas.
Who is this, like he's a poster boy for an SP, is Dick Cheney. He even shot his friend.
Yeah.
This guy.
I know. So that's why I'm not a Republican. I have a good friend, Randy. I'll tell you, the book I want to write is a hat write-up of what the hell, the way it should be. I mean,
ideal scene.
You have even the political system. I'm so, because men are aberrated. And so the minute somebody has power, any money, they're going to be buying. Like, Ocasio-Cortez was paid for. I mean, this Netflix movie they literally have footage of her as a bartender.
Yeah.
That was all planned out.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's a complete, absolute moron who doesn't know what a garbage disposal is. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. It's like, there's got to be a plant there, because that's all they talk about. I don't know of any other congressperson besides her. It's like, who do I talk about? Trump, AOC, Pelosi, and Schumer.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else in Congress.
Right.
Like, no idea. Oh, Maxine Waters, a crazy lady.
No, you're right.
That's it. So AOC is this writing store. I'm like, I don't know. They're trying to they're just trying to make controversy so we are distracted.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't watch the news at all. Yeah, I'm just gonna build my pizza empire or whatever else, and then get together, and I'm just gonna gather people, and we're gonna plan it out.
How about to your friends out in the field who may be feeling even like bent or just like keyed in, disaffected?
My journey from start to finish in Scientology, it started with hope and promise that Scientology worked and that man could be free. And the journey from then till now, which is about 50 years, was impossible at times. Seemed impossible. And the only thing I had to hold on to was I had a glimmer as a kid on what it would be like to be free. And now I know that to be true, that I've reached a point beyond my wildest dreams of being, that I haven't felt for billions of years, that I know now that it is possible, and I can't wait to find out what's ahead. But no matter how hard it was or how impossible it was, I can tell you it's worth going through. And you have to keep going, because it is what you can imagine and more.